Hey folks, this is Tully and welcome to some more game dev. It has been a little while and I don't know, I just haven't had much time for streaming. I feel like I want to do some sort of like elaborate explanation of where I've been and what I've been up to, but anyone who's been around long enough knows that sometimes work gets in the way, sometimes life gets in the way, and I just don't have a ton of time to stream. But I always return eventually. For today, though, we're going to be jumping back in with some game dev. The last time we did some game dev stream was in June, where we looked at getting some item pickups, some skill acquisition stuff figured out, and that went pretty well. Honestly, we, I think, spent like a good weekend just like getting a ton of progress in, and I've been feeling like I just can't quite figure out how to make progress, and I feel like the answer is always just to jump on stream. Even if this content isn't the most interesting, it helps me more than anything else. So where have we been? It's been a couple of months. Basically did nothing in June in terms of game dev, nothing in July, and then last week started looking at turn order stuff. Me and Drixie have also been having some pretty larger conversations about trying to like streamline the game into something that's actually completable, because it's taking us a long time to kind of get to some of the bigger goals that I have, and so we're thinking about just like cutting some stuff that I haven't even necessarily even talked about on stream, but would make the game take a lot longer. So we've been kind of like paring that down, but in terms of like actual visible changes in the game, the main thing we've been looking at is like turn order. I guess it's also worth calling out July was a fair amount of playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2. I received it as a gift, and I very much enjoyed it and 100%ed that game. And there was some learnings there as well that maybe I'll talk about eventually. But for right now, let's dive in and take a look at some turn order stuff. So we've been looking at setting up this side panel thing here such that like it represents the number of turns that are going to like the next 8 turns essentially, and a symbol next to a time icon is representing a specific character going. So in this case we have one enemy. I have labeled this enemy as A, and it would go in essentially 4 turns from now. I don't think this UI explains that as well as it could, and that's the thing we're continuing to work on today, is try and find either different ways of doing the UI, because maybe this turn order isn't quite communicating what I need, or looking at so either looking at completely different things or finding ways to improve this setup. So yeah, just to show this in motion though, so right now I'm kind of in between turns, nothing's happening. The game is essentially waiting for our inputs. We can hit slash. When we hit slash, we appear here so that our slash takes essentially 2 turns to execute. Again, that I don't think is coming across quite well, but essentially it showed up 2 ticks above, it ticked down 1, ticked down 2, then we got the attack, and now we're back to the game expecting us to put in some input. We can move away from the enemy at this point, and then when the enemy tries to attack, this attack specifically tries to hit 1 away from them. There's nothing in range, they get dazed for a second, and then they'll go back to trying to choose a new ability. In this case, choosing their dash attack, which allows them to move 1 and attack 1 square away. So we can do a big hit here, and then we can try and get another hit in, and then the enemy would go at this point, and we can move away in order to quote-unquote dodge. And then we can come back when they're stunned, and they're choosing to do the dash attack, so we can get that hit in, and then we get hit back. And so as I'm explaining all of that, this is attempting to explain that same information. So here the enemy's going to go in 2 turns. If I perform my slash, it shows up in 2 turns. I go, enemy goes, and then the enemy picks a new ability, which is to do the dash attack again, so that has a 2-turn window, so we can hit. And we're kind of just trading blows. And now here the enemy chooses their 4-turn ability, which is like this more heavy hitting hit. We can get a attack in with our slash, and then we could try and move away to try and not get hit by the big attack. We can also move away from the dash, and if we get far enough away, the enemy will go into this chase behavior, at which point we can move forward and kind of manipulate the AI a little bit to try and get some damage in without getting hit. And that's like the basics of the gameplay we're trying for. And I'm just trying to find better ways of communicating everything I'm saying verbally into the actual game UI. Okay, so with that explanation out of the way, I think I want to take a look and just almost ramble to myself more so. I want to take a look at some of the other pieces. So the other thing I'm thinking about is I don't know if having all the information on the left-hand side of the screen is what I want. I feel like personally I'd prefer to see it on the actual enemies. So that version of events we've been exploring here by having the enemy status bar have a number. I'm actually going to move this number up to here. We'll put in like an 8 for reference. Something like that. Sure. And then I'm going to go into the combat screen UI, and we're going to disable the turn order. So we're going to turn off the turn order, and we're going to turn on the charge meter, which I think is something we've shown in a previous stream, but it probably would have been a while ago. So pick up the sword, which is going to give us our first skill slash, and then walk over to the enemy. Yeah, so in this scenario, instead of having the information on the left-hand side of the screen, it's like showing the amount of turns until the enemy acts. And I'm representing that with like a simple piece of text at this point, but that could be like a radial menu that's like filling in, or it could be a series of like check marks or something. But like for now, just a number is the most compact way of displaying. So the enemy is going to attack in 4 turns, and we've also turned on this charge meter. So when the character takes a turn, we can see how many actions until they are actually going to go. So here, 1 tick, enemy hits us. 2 ticks, the enemy is going to attack in 3, so we can get in a slash before they go, and then we can move away and then try and get some hits in. Like, this version, I think, ends up putting more clutter on the enemies, especially when we have multiple enemies. There'll be a lot of information being displayed. So if we come into here, and turn on a second enemy to spawn, it starts to get more muddy this way, because we start having a lot of just like text floating in the center of the screen, but it is more compact. And I'm just not sure which style I like more. I've been having conversations with Drixie about this, and like Drixie leans more towards the actual meter on the left, whereas I'm more like leaning towards this one, but I think it's almost too early to choose one over the other. I feel like we're better off just continuing to prototype both until we find something that works. Yeah, because I feel like this is communicating a similar amount of information. I just think that there's also a level of like, when am I going, when am I not going? Like the charge meter shows me a little bit of like the progress that like I've chosen an attack, but I think we're still kind of just missing some sort of like communication. Almost like, sorry, I'm trying to articulate the thought. So I'm trying to think about like, I think the problem is that we don't have like a representation of like command select versus like action is playing out. I think today what I want to try doing is there's been this idea that me and Drixie have been looking at and thinking about a little bit. We're just not sure whether or not it's going to be a good idea or a bad idea, but we've been thinking about this idea of making it so that when an attack starts, having it hold on the first frame of that attack as soon as you select that ability. Yeah. Because I feel like right now we're always in that like idle state until the action actually starts. But I feel like we almost need not necessarily an idle, but like just an indication that hero is about to attack. And I think if we could lock into the first frame of the attack we're about to do while the charge time is happening, I think that would help communicate, you know, when we're fighting versus when the game is asking you to put something in. Let's see if we can do that. I'm gonna hack some stuff together. We're very much in prototype mode right now, so I'm gonna write some maybe not optimal code, but we can always come back and rearrange it later. So let's take a look at the slash ability. So this executes the moment that we actually finish our charge time. It doesn't do anything once we actually select it. It just says, I will do this ability in 2 turns or 4 turns or whatever the charge time of that ability is. Where's the charge time set? Here on the very top. Okay. And here's where we say we want to do the slash animation. Okay. I'm gonna try something. What if, again, we're just gonna rapidly prototype stuff. Let's make like a slash idle. So this is like the idle that the character should be in if they've chosen to do slash. And slash idle shouldn't do any damaging stuff at all. I don't think we need any of this information. Distance, found tile, reaction, delay, outro's fine, hit default we don't need. What is this doing? That's probably fine, it's just setting the character's direction. So this is saying attacker wait in the idle state. Oh no, this is waiting on the idle state. This is saying before continuing, wait for idle to finish. Okay, we probably still want that. But if we go back to slash and we steal this animation parameter, go back to slash idle. If we wait on idle, then say start slash, we have a wait on the pause event, and then setting the animation speed to 0. My thought is, could we have it so that we set the animation, wait on a pause, set the animation speed to 0, and then when the actual slash ability starts, instead of telling you to enter into slash, we assume you've already entered into this animation to start with. And so instead, we're going to override just slash. We're going to just set animation speed back to 1. And then wait on pause. Okay, I think this should function. So we'll play slash idle as an ability as soon as you choose to perform the action. The character will go into the slash animation. I'm going to add a pause on the first frame, so as soon as it hits that first frame, it's going to immediately stop the animation speed right here. So it's going to play the animation, wait for a pause, set the animation speed to 0. Then when slash comes in, we're going to restart the animation speed back to 1. And then we're going to wait for the second pause, which is like the anticipation frame that we have built in. That's just existing systems. And then we're going to set speed to 0. So we're essentially removing the old slash here and just replacing it with this start speed on the attacker, on the attacker, on the attacker. Yeah, that should work. So then the only other trick here is we're going to need some form of reference to slash idle. Let's look at the player. This is where it gets tricky, because the player doesn't have any abilities associated with them. We add slash as part of the ability. So if we want like the second slash idle, we're going to need to find a way of creating it on the player. How do I hack this together just to test if this works? Okay. Most hacky way is let's just put this new slash idle directly on the player container. Yeah. And I'm just going to hard code in a slash idle ability directly into the unit. So this will never fly long term. We'll have to come up with a better system. But just to see whether or not this looks good, I want to give this a shot. We're also going to need to modify the animations, which I haven't done in a while, but that should be pretty straightforward. So we're going to go into cell properties. We're going to add an extra pause. When we do that, we should have an example in one of these here. Lowercase, and then same thing here. So we'll just play this and immediately pause on this frame. Okay. Let's export all of that. Save that. Export sprite sheet. All the default settings look fine there. Come into our tools, characters, slice sheets, which we shouldn't have to do because we didn't actually add any new frames. But then characters, anim sprites. And then if we look up hero, we are looking for... God, we have so many animations. Any of the slashes should be fine, but if we look at one of the actual animations... Oh, it didn't work. There's a pause event here, but I should have expected one to appear here on frame 0 as well. But we did not get that. Interesting. Characters, anim sprites. Try running it again. Did we run into any errors? There's some errors from the actual game right now. Any warnings? No, just general script issues. Any logs? I need to clean all this up at some point. It's just spamming way too much. Yeah, animation done. So it says it did do a process of it. It is not adding that keyframe. Okay. Let's check the JSON file. Oh, I see what the problem is. The default settings were not correct. I exported to the wrong name file. Okay, okay. Sorry. That's happening off camera, but... Anim sprites... If we... Yeah, okay, now the pause is showing up. Okay, simple problem. Pause is there. Pause is here. Okay. So there should now be a pause on each of the slash animations. So when we go to attack, we need to send this as the first thing we do. So when we perform an input for the player, we come up with a plan called an AI plan, but really we need to rename this structure because it's ended up being a plan for the player as well. But we set up a plan and add that to the list. And then this list of plans, we do a get clear and we get all the plans. For any plan that's got a CT less than or equal to 0, we add it as a result and then remove that found plan from the list of plans. Okay, so in theory, if this is setting up the actual attack, we should be able to add another plan in here that has a CT of 0. Oh, is that not going to work? Because the CT isn't on the plan, the CT is on the stats. Oh no, the plan has its own list of stats? This has to be referencing the player though, right? Yeah, it's getting the player's stats. Oh, okay. We're going to continue hacking away. So we're going to set the stats to null. And we're going to say, we're going to add the plan if the CT stats is less than or equal to 0. Or if the stats are null. Okay, super hack. So then from here, this can be AI plan, AI idle plan for sure. Maybe I'll just rename this whole thing to the idle plan. We don't need this delay, I don't think. We do need the ability, which is going to be from current player. Current player should be of type unit, so we should be able to just grab the /idle ability we're creating here. Idle ability sequence step. Just renaming things so that we have less conflicts. And we don't need this notification for our setup here. Okay. Cool. We want this ability to be non-blocking. Triggering the animation shouldn't stop the game from progressing. I think in theory that should just work. Yeah. We should have now added a new... Oh, actually, there's one step. Did I actually drag the... I just want to double check. Player, not plan. I did drag in the reference. I did not. /idle needs to be added here. Okay, I thought I missed that, and I did. So now when we go to perform a slash attack, it should queue up two plans. One plan which is in 4 turns to actually perform the attack, and then another plan that should be basically instantaneously added on the next turn. Oh, interesting. What is this ready doing? Okay, so there's more setup here than I realized. AI plan stats equal null. Ready equal true. I hit Control B at some point, and it is now doing a massive build, which is frustrating. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Just go away, thank you. Okay, if stats are equal to null, just say that this plan is true. And continue. Yep, that should continue to be fine. Let's see what other possible spots this will cause problems in. Just complaining about the fade bar. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we can see it's actually kind of working, but not as intended. Oh, and this just completely broke. Interesting. Okay. I see the problem. The problem is that we did not account for when we are performing non-slash abilities. We just assumed we're always doing a slash. But this comes in for like movement as well. So we need to make sure that the ability we're about to perform is a slash ability. Drixie with the hydrate. Good call out, especially because I don't think well, I do have water. But I might need to get more at some point. Okay, thank you. Slash. What would we be able to do to tell if this is a slash ability versus a regular movement one? I guess we can check the CT time. That's not ideal, but... yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's just check if the CT time is 2. Then we're going to assume that this is a slash. Again, this is extremely bad code, but I just want to see how it works. Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, we can pick up the item again, so that's now fixed. Now when we go to attack, kind of worked. So we entered into the slash idle, but when we actually got into the actual slash attack, it's not progressing forward. So let's take a look at scene. Let's exit out of here, click on hero. Yeah, so we are frozen on the first frame still. But in theory, we should be stepping through the slash ability at this point. And we should be at the state where... Oh, this actual step here is the problem. Because the slash wants to make sure that we are in idle before we use it. But that's actually a problem now. So we can disable this, because it should no longer be necessary in this situation. Okay. Okay. I don't know. This is kind of working. I mean, it's slightly annoying, but I get why. Okay. So now we should see it immediately switch as soon as we hit A to the slash, like, idle, quote unquote. And then when we actually get the charge time down, when the enemy displays 2, meaning 2 turns have passed, or when our charge bar is empty, we should actually perform the actual slash. Okay. That being said, something is still a little wrong. Also, we're zoomed out too far. I feel like the actual charge bar has changed. Like, we used to have like a half-second delay where each charge bar would like slowly decrease to let you see like, oh, one moment has passed, 2 moments has passed, but that charge bar is now like emptying like near instantaneously. Slow things down a little bit. Yeah, there's some sort of weird issue happening there. But I don't hate it. Like, the fact that when we hit slash, hero immediately goes into, you know, using the sword seems good. The thing I would want to check on... I want to see what happens or what it looks like to get hit while holding the sword. So if we go here... Here. So we should get hit at this point, although now this other enemy is next to us, which makes this harder to visualize. But I'm going to use the attack. We should get our sword, we get hit, and then we attack back. Okay. I don't hate it. I don't know if it's doing everything I need in order to communicate the turn order. But it definitely feels like when we hit A, there's more of a, like, snap reaction. I'm unsure. I'm unsure. something really weird is happening with the charge meter. Like sometimes it looks like it might be, oh, you know what it is? It's when it lines up with the enemy's attack. The charge meter goes down one, the enemy attacks us, then it goes down the second one after the enemy's finished doing the attack. That's when it looks good. But if the enemy isn't attacking for a turn, like if we can get the enemy to do a red attack here it'll look weird because it like goes down too quickly. Okay, so I want to dig into that. I want to know what is going on with the charge meter. Why is it sometimes taking half a second? And why is it sometimes instantaneous? So in this situation, I feel like that's going too quickly. So let's dig into the charge meter. How does that function? If we take a look at... where's that going to be? That's going to be under... combat? Base screen? Status. This CT... player CT, I think this is the actual, yeah, fade bar component. So anytime the specified stat changes, and in this situation the specified stat is the counter, anytime counter changes, it's going to get a notification on stat did change, and it's going to refresh the component. And it's going to say whatever the current stat is, as long as it doesn't equal what the previous stat we last set was, we're going to loop if needed. Otherwise, we're going to set the fill bar to be the previous amount. We turn on this image object. Oh, this is the previous stat. Okay. So we have like an image object that we overlay on top. So if we were to take a look at this thing in the scene, turn this part of it on. Yeah, there's a meter. We have a bunch of dividers that we can add. When we turn on a divider, that separates it. I'm probably manually positioning all of these dividers in code based off of how many like chunks we want. Or am I doing this even more simply? Divider 1, divider 2, divider 2, divider 3. Oh no, I'm doing it in code. I wasn't sure if I had like set up every configuration, but no, there's just a bunch of dividers I move around. And then we have the health bar, and then we have the fade bar, which is identical to the health bar, but we snap the health bar down, and then the fade bar takes on the same size as the original previous stat. And then we fade it down. Okay, so there's some like health bar, fade bar, like some of these names are wrong. They're just different types of bars essentially, but the point is that whenever we change the stat, it will instantaneously fade down a level. So none of this, although there is a fade time, none of this matters if we change our stat too quickly. If the counter stat, if the counter stat is modified again too rapidly, the UI will just like update to the next one. That means that inside of our turn order system, I hate this code. I think this code is our problem. This says if the player doesn't have a plan, add a 0.5 seconds. And I think this 0.5 seconds, if I had to guess, probably lines up with the amount of delay I'm expecting on the bar. Yeah, those are meant to be the same. But now that we've added a like /idle effect, it is not taking half a second. /idle. not the correct way to solve this. I think I need to find a more like simplistic way of handling the charge bar rather than it being like baked into different abilities or baked into code. I think there should be something that's literally deciding that we're adding a half second for the turn somewhere else. But for the time being, I think if we just add a half second delay here, the charge meter will go back to working quote unquote correctly. No, still too quick. Oh, that's because we also set this to be non-blocking. If we say that this is going to take it's going to take time, then it should actually care about the delay. If it's non-blocking, it basically just fires it off on not a thread, but a coroutine, so it just doesn't block the actual gameplay from progressing. Like, that's what's weird about the setup, is that we have this idea that, like, a turn, even if no one's taking any actions at all, it's supposed to be, I think, like, I'm trying to get a half second built in. Yeah. I'm trying to get a half second built into every turn, no matter what. Even if literally no one has any abilities or actions, it should be like a half second of downtime. And I think I'm doing that in several different locations, trying to keep them all in sync, when there should be like a more holistic approach. That's feeling better. Even if it's just a still frame, not even an idle, but just like a single hold frame of the sword being held after we hit A, it feels like we've done something. Like now the game's waiting for an action, the character's just idling, we hit a button, it feels like we're about to slash. And then that charge meter feels more correct because we're, waiting for our moment to actually get the attack in. I like this direction. Okay. This version does lose the hit reaction, so I just want to bring that up real quick just to even remind myself. But essentially, when an enemy normally hits the player, actually let's do this through the project because I don't remember exactly what it's called, but there's a prefab for AI hit effect. Normally we would have an animation associated with being hit. And in order for this to function, I'd turn this off. Because in this scenario where we actually have our hit animations turned on, this whole system breaks. Because we can no longer hold inside of the idle or inside of the slash, because we might get hit while we're performing the ability. So there's fine because we didn't get hit. But if we move here, and we do the slash, we'll do the hit reaction, but we won't be inside of the right attack anymore. It doesn't go back to the idle slash, and now we're in a stuck state because it's trying to replay the hit animation and wait for the pause, but it's never going to get that because we're in an idle forever. So I think if I like this slash, I either need to drop the hit animations completely, so we just don't have an animation for being hit, or we'd need to come up with a much more elaborate system that, like, you have the sword, you get hit, it plays the hit animation, and then it returns you back to holding the sword. But if we're doing like a mace attack or a bow attack, that's going to feel weirder and weirder each time. I think I'm fine with just holding the sword and getting hit. I think if we want to make that feel better, we could do something I've seen Final Fantasy Tactics do, which is just a little bit of punch. We used to have that at one point. Is that this one? Yeah. It's a bit wonky, but that's essentially what this is doing. Can we do that on the AI's attack as well? The AI doesn't have that functionality. That's fine. We can copy this over, paste it in, and put it right above the hit. And that should cause a shake. I don't know how good this is going to look, but... okay, give this a shot. Yeah, that's too fast. Yeah. I think we could play with that to try and make that look better, but I think for now I'm okay with just like leaving it simple. And just like I think we get like at least a little bit of a color that I do, an impact, yeah, a flash white with particles and other impact stuff. So I think I'm fine just turning off the hit animations for the time being, and kind of working towards this idea of like as soon as you hit a button, your character goes into like a ready to attack with whichever ability you've chosen. Stance? I don't like You hit A, you go into about to slash stance. You hit, B to do the bash attack, you go into holding the mace. And if you get hit by enemies while you're in that state, you just get hit, but we don't play an animation or anything. Okay. I've been standing for this stream so far. I'm going to sit down and we're going to try... I think I want to try cleaning up the very rapid prototype we did and see if there's maybe a better way to have the slash idle be generated or be somehow connected to the slash. But one moment while I reset the desk. Okay. Let's also switch up the background music for a little bit. Okay. Slash idle. So we had built that directly into the unit, but realistically, could we not have the ability have a reference to the slash idle? Could the slash idle be built into the slash? How do we normally do this? How do we, like, how does this prefab function? It goes through all of its children? Tries to attack a target. And then it goes through all of the children. It does take a transform. Oh, but the transform it takes is itself. But we could potentially give this a specific transform to run through. Call this effect parent. Okay, this is the transform for the parent of all of our effects. And then here, where we do transform, we will instead pass in parent object is equal to transform. And then if effect parent transform does not equal null, we will change this parent object to be the effect parent. So by default, all of our abilities will continue to work the same way. Here, we need to do the same thing on the actual perform as well. Okay, so all of our abilities will operate identically unless they have an effect parent, in which case they'll use that instead of themselves as the transform. So then for slash, we should be able to then create a empty parent, which can be effects, and then slash can have this effects parent. And in theory, we should be able to embed inside of this prefab the slash idle prefab as a separate ability. And then the ability can also have a transform to another ability, which is initial ability. Sure. So this is the starting ability that would be performed. So for slash, it would have its slash idle as its initial ability. For slash, it would have slash idle. I hooked slash idle to slash idle for a second. Okay, cool. So this means that we don't need to embed slash idle into the enemy container every single time. Nope. In the player container, we don't need slash idle. And then inside of unit, we won't have a reference to slash idle anymore. And where we were doing that, we should be able to do ability.initial. And here we can check to make sure initial ability is not equal to null. So if this ability has an initial ability, immediately add it. Yeah. Hope you have a good day, Red Yoshi. Appreciate you stopping in. Yeah, okay. So then that should fix it. It's not the most clean, but it feels more clean. Abilities embedded in abilities. Not too bad. And this means when we add bash or bow attacks, they should also just work if we just set up them to have an initial as well. Yeah, that still functions. The errors we're seeing are other problems, but not related to what we just did. Okay. Cool. We can remove this. That's just a save. So then the question becomes, is this a hack? I think not. I think the idea that we set up a plan for entering into the initial ability as soon as we go to perform it, I like that. And I like this setup. Okay. Yeah. I think this works. Let's take a look at the slash ability. The way that this is arranged, I think I might want to put this here. It's debatable. Yeah, this is probably fine. I guess realistically, this doesn't need to be a prefab anymore. Yeah, okay. That's feeling a lot better to me. Just having the sword appear immediately as like I pushed A and something happened. Whereas before it could be more like you push A and then nothing happens. Or you'd see the charge bar decaying. But that would be about it. Let's go back to the HUD let's go back to the turn order meter on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm curious how that feels with this change, because I'm still not sold on either one. And then we'll turn off the CT being attached to the enemies. Oh, one thing I actually wouldn't mind doing real quick is setting up these things to have an ID associated with them. See if I can do this. So this has a reference to the unit. Inside of the combat state machine component, which is currently really the turn order manager, how do we figure out which unit we're displaying? Oh, is that not even in this one? That's technically inside of the plan component. Okay, it's in the AI state beta that I have the letter associated with each of them. I'm gonna need a new component type. Okay. This is not too bad. This is just gonna take me a second. We're gonna add a new type of component to be able to display the letter of a unit. Unit ID component is what I'll call this for now. Okay, and then this is going to get the stored data, which is a unit, but we should be able to get component and find the state machine. AI beta. This doesn't have a reference to it. We're just going to do that for now. Okay, so that'll just be a component that I can add to this thing, and it will just set any piece of text I give it to the letter of the associated unit. So ID unit ID component, and we will make it this thing. Perfect. Okay. And then we'll have two units on the screen, and they'll have like an A and a B associated with the timeline on the left. So how does this new slash like initial state thing that I've set up work? Or more accurately, how does it feel with this setup instead? I don't know. I really don't. It feels so much more disconnected this way. Like when we have the number of turns until they act directly on the units, it's very easy to just look at the center of the screen and be like, oh, this enemy's going in 3 turns. Whereas in this version, I have to look at the B, look over here and be like, oh, he's going in 4 turns. Okay, I can get an attack in. It just feels like there's a lot more darting my eye to the left and to the right. And like, maybe we could move this meter and be horizontal with it and have it on the bottom of the screen so it's more center. But that's only true in this configuration. If I was fighting enemies over here, that would still feel somewhat more far away. I guess if it's in the center of the screen, it will be more equidistant. And if we're fighting enemies up around here, that would still be closer than it being on the left. But regardless, I'm having to kind of look back and forth to see the information, whereas in the other version, I can just see the numbers on the screen and know when they're going to go. It's more challenging almost, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that the information is not readily available to me, and I feel like I have to do 1 or 2 steps of interpretation of like, oh, he's going in 2 turns, the enemy's going in 1 turn, he's got a purple icon, which means he's going to be moving towards me at as much as possible. So I could just move back, the enemy will come between us, it ends up choosing an attack of A, I see that red symbol is over here and it's a 4 attack, so I can get an attack in here. Like, I can still, in some regards, if I start to get good at knowing what each symbol is, I don't even need to look over to the left. The left is more just to kind of reset my orientation. So if I see the red and I'm like, oh, did he go? Did I go? I don't remember. Then it's good to be able to look over here and go, oh, he's got only 2 turns. But if I'm watching and paying attention, I can be like, oh, he's green. He's going to go in 2 turns. I can just move away from him. Like, realistically, these symbols tell me everything I need to know. Just if I know each ability and what their charge time is, because it's not variable. It's a fixed, each action they take, whether it's red, which is 4 turns, or green, which is 2 turns. I kind of can just know if I'm like paying attention to everything. So maybe it's not too bad if it's on the left, because I don't need the information. But I can regain it or refigure out what's going on if I have to. But I guess regardless of whether or not we have this system or the numbers directly on the enemies showing until how long till they go, I still have to have a like, there still needs to be some sort of like indication here. So whether it's a number for the number of turns they go or identifying which slime is which, we still need to have either a letter or a number here. I guess the main difference then between this system and the other system is just the charge bar above the character's head. This one doesn't need the charge bar because we can see the timer ticking down here. I'm not going to come to an answer on this in this stream, but it is... I think... Okay, here's the answer. Or sorry, here's the answer for now. It's not the final answer of which of these 2 systems communicate the turns better, but in terms of the original question I was going to check here, does the slash feel better or worse? It's indifferent. The making it so that the sword appears as soon as we hit A is good in both systems, but it doesn't inherently make this system or the number showing on the slimes system better. The slash is just good in both and isn't tipping the scales. I'd like that my eye can be more central. Like when I'm fighting these enemies, I don't have a whole team that I'm moving my eyes back and forth between. I just have one character. So like being able to just focus on my one character and keep my eyes centered on essentially just this part of the screen is nice. It does mean that I'm not going to be looking around at like the clock or my HP as much. But like having all the information I need basically right here is kind of, I think, the style of game I want to go for more. I'm still leaning this way. I'm still leaning on this system more as like the way I'd like to go. I don't think I realized that interacting with a cutscene actually advances time. That's mildly funny. Let's reset our stats back down to like an actual normal amount, so that we're not able to attack the enemy forever. Okay, so we have this one enemy. It's going to go in 2 turns. Let's zoom in. Yeah, we're essentially going to be trading blows with the enemy in every situation, except for if we happen to get a red. Actually, I guess the nice thing about this configuration is the enemies can't reach us here. That doesn't seem too bad. Seems pretty good. What if we come into here? One thing I want to try is the enemy was like charge timing down pretty quickly in some of those spots. Felt like the number was changing rapidly. I just want to see... Is it in here? Decide next attack. Where do we... This spot. When the enemy takes their turn, they should be... It's solo, so it should take a whole... turn? This is the piece I'm looking for. This should also be renamed to AI weight, probably, but it's fine. I think this needs to be 0.5, not 0.1 for the enemies. Okay. Zoom in. That feels slower. I don't know if it's even clear what I'm even looking at this point, but we're essentially playing with the amount of time it takes for each of their numbers to change. Basically just separating it so their number changes are like their own steps. Feels like it makes things more muddy, honestly. I guess what's weird about this is by having each number change, like each enemy's wait turn take a half a second, it starts to feel like this character goes, this character goes, this character goes. It starts to feel like it's not like one tick, which is what I'm trying to do. Like essentially it's one moment in time for all the characters to have their like counters change. So by having there be some sort of delay between them, that breaks. Like, I want to give some indication that their timers have changed, and I want to give player like a chance to read that. Like, the player should have time to process that information. It's so hard to try and explain what I'm looking at right now, but realistically, I'm just playing with the very minute timing on when the enemy's counters are changing, like when they're updating. Now both of the enemy's timers are changing at the exact same moment. And somehow that feels like my brain is just like glazing over more when I look at that information. It's like too much is happening, but it's also more accurate to the experience I'm trying to create. I don't know, it's really hard to try to get this to look right. Yeah, it feels snappier though. Like that change makes everything feel quicker, because honestly everything is happening faster. But it feels like I'm not getting enough time to process what I'm actually looking at. Especially when like my health is actually set to a reasonable number. If I remove dash attack from the enemy's like possible abilities, some of the AI stuff breaks pretty hard. but the game becomes a lot easier. Because it's much easier to just move away from them. Because they basically can never get an attack in unless I stand there and trade blows. Which is not the gameplay I want, but is interesting. Huh. Okay. This is feeling closer. Like, a good chunk closer than it has been. First time chatter, Mystic Coder. Have you considered disabling reload domain in editor preferences? It makes it much faster entering play mode if you're careful about things like global singletons. I use a lot of global singletons, so probably not faster. But a good call out. I'm not familiar with it. Honestly, I've used Unity for like 15 years, but like some of the later stuff with the global domain stuff, I just haven't read up enough on. Just like update and just like continue using Unity like I did in 2010. Just statics and singletons may not work as expected. Interesting. That seems a bit risky. Fundamentally, the majority of our core game loop operates on a number of global managers, like an entity manager that is able to like look up any entity in the scene. Dialogue operates off of a global manager. Our scene controller for all of our actual like UI systems all operates off of what I believe is a singleton. Our management for scenes, it's a try and see if it just malfunctions type thing. Okay. It's not so much a it's not so much a it might break eventually later in some weird way that I'm not sure what's happening. Is it under the warning, this section contains diagnostic settings used to troubleshoot internal problems with Unity? I don't think it's under visual effects. I reload. When I type in reload, the only spots it's showing is visual effects and diagnostics under preferences. It's also possible that because I'm in Unity 2022, not Unity 6, I may not have that option. I'm looking. 1 second. Let me just look for... No, it doesn't show up there either. Search for domain. No, still not seeing it. Unless it's not preferences. I doubt it would be under project settings, but maybe. There is an editor section under project settings, but I'm still not seeing it. There is a lot of things here, though. Ah, is it... enter play mode options, reload domain? Because I have that off by default, it looks like. Unless I have to tick on the options, and then... Slightly confusing, but it's possible... Okay. Okay. Yeah, Bootstrap immediately fails, it looks like. Reload scene ticked. Give that a shot. Nope, same problem. Yeah, it looks like my system won't allow me to have it because we do some stuff like this, which is initializing a bunch of managers for our data, our options, our backend, save manager, all that stuff. Yeah. I appreciate the call out though. Like I said, I don't always dig too much into the latest features of Unity. Usually when I upgrade, it's because there's like a specific problem that I'm having with the engine, and it's like I find information saying like if you upgrade to 22 you can do this type of thing, but usually I don't go too deep into the actual like features. Unity does most of what I need to do without needing to go too crazy with it. Okay, so what are we trying to do now? We've made it so that we can make the character start with the first frame of their slash animation. Oh, that's funny. So if we die, it doesn't exit out of the animation. That can be corrected. It's not a death animation, it's a knockout status effect. When we get knocked out, how does it play the animation? Animation parameter sequence step play death. Animation. Set animation speed sequence step. What is this going to need in order to operate? It's going to need an animation, so that'll be this one. Owner, animation. We can just make sure to set the animation back to 1 when we are about to die. That might fix that problem. And then I think the weird part of this is I don't know if the attack will auto exit. I don't think it will. So we'll like see the character perform the slash and then their death animation. Yeah, so that's a fundamental bug that I'll have to rework our animator state setup stuff. How can I even get that repro, like get a repro on that? I'll need to get hit enough. Well, I got hit enough, but I did not anticipate dying that quickly. So we'll have to get the enemy on an odd number of attacks. Something's weird with the telegraphing too. When we remove dash attack, the AI kind of breaks in some really odd ways. There's a lot of little bugs that keep appearing that's definitely slowing me down. Although this is mildly funny that I can just keep stun locking them over and over again. Okay, I think the easier way to do this is going to be... Oh, that actually did work correctly. We exited the sword stance and went right into the death without playing out the rest of the slash. Okay. So that's fixed. That's mildly funny. But that's a separate bug. I'm not sure what to work on next, to be honest with you, chat. This is kind of my problem, though. To be perfectly honest, it's been a couple of months of this exact moment of like I'm not sure what to do, and there's like so many different small tasks that could be completed, but I'm just not sure what's the right thing to be working on. Like I want to keep on this idea of the theme of today, which is like turn order and trying to find ways to improve the turn order to make it more clear to the player exactly what's happening at any given moment when they're like performing their actions, because I do think the idea of like when I perform a slash, it taking like a couple of turns before the slash actually performs is a fairly odd concept. And like having the enemies also have like charge turns. But I think this is probably as clear as I'm going to get it for now. And maybe I just need to play with it for a while to try and find where are the pain points where I feel like, oh, that didn't communicate what I was expecting. And I'm saying there's some weird behaviors here with the AI, because like, gray symbol I think means that it failed to find a valid attack. And then I'm not sure why we're seeing -1 sometimes. So there's like some really odd behavior. I'm gonna guess because we removed the dash attack from the attack patterns, when we only have AI at the smash and the chase only activates if there's a min distance of 3, where smash only happens if you're right next to the enemy. So if the min distance, or if the distance is ever 2, the AI has no pattern it can choose. So if we choose min distance of 2, that means that that should now chase us. Epitaph? Epith? I can't, I'm not 100% sure, but first time chatter saying, hey there, happy coding. Thank you, appreciate it. I don't know if it's happy. It's definitely some coding. I don't know if I would describe it as happy. Okay, let's zoom back in. So the enemy is stunned. Now they're on a gray pip for 1 turn. Now they're actually performing the chase. Yeah, okay, I guess this is the next path we should follow. What is going on with this behavior? Because it doesn't seem right to me. Like here, the enemy should be stunned and should be showing a gray telegraph crystal for their next action. And then here we have the gray telegraph, but they have a 1 turn left. That executed 1 turn too early. Yeah, something's wrong. Okay, so let's take a look. The AI director isn't the AI director just compiles. We want to look at the attack state. So if we minus the CT, which should immediately update the UI, so we should see the UI appear with a CT of 0 when they're actually taking their turns. I would expect. If the CT minus 1 is greater than 0... Oh, this is the bug. Okay. We don't need that minus 1 if we're subtracting instantly. There was a point where I was adding this weight ability was minusing the CT. That's... Okay, so that's part of it. That wasn't too bad. So it was performing a weight at the wrong moment. Or I guess actually it was the inverse. It was actually performing the action 1 turn sooner than it should have been, is what was happening. Okay, so then it goes into a chase behavior. The enemy is trying to attack, but we've already moved out of the way. They go into a stun behavior, which will execute in 1 turn. They go to 0. They are finished being stunned. This one's going into a chase. This is going to be stunned for this turn. Yeah, that's what the problem was. Okay. So if we only let the enemy do like their charged red attacks, and we get rid of their dash attack completely, it means that there's no way for them to ever hit us unless we stand still, which there's no reason for us to ever stand still unless we're trying to move around them like that. I will say this behavior is starting to feel more fun. Like, it's not perfect, but it's seeming better. Okay. I think the next thing I want to try is if we go into these containers, what determines whether or not the AI can move? Is that based off of anything in here? Like AI dash attack, AI smash. Doesn't look like it. Where am I actually determining the movement? So like AI dash attack is using this basic AI attack ability, which doesn't look to have any movement built into it. This is a range of 64. Is it the range that determines? -1 for the range. No, this one has -1 as well, but this one definitely moves. I don't remember how my AIs determine this. Attack state. Movement locations. Should move. How do we determine whether or not an AI should move? If it's a stationary attack. Do I just have that ticked somewhere? Is stationary... Ah, that's what it is. Okay. And then override range. What is override range doing? Oh, cool. Okay, okay, I remember how I set this up. So the AI has a movement associated with it somewhere on here. There is a movement script. And that movement script has a default amount of movement associated with it. Is that under here? So this one has a movement of 1. But I made it so that each of these behaviors, like chase, can override that behavior. So this one has a distance movement of 64. So if they perform this ability, then they will override their base amount of movement and go 64 squares. So what I can do, if I give this a 2, I set this to not stationary, I leave that to be the default movement of 1. How does that change the behavior of combat? I think this makes it so running is no longer viable, because the enemy, if they're doing like a dash attack, can move a couple of squares to catch up with you. Yeah, so this setup means that I can always outrun them, because when they do a big attack, they only move 1 square and then try and attack. This also means they never get stunned, because it's always viable for them to do something. So in this situation, even though he couldn't reach me, he still moved 1, which meant that he had something he could do on his turn so he didn't get stunned. Yeah, so the enemies feel way more aggressive with this change. It's only if they're stationary does it make it so that they fail their hit and become stunned. Okay. I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it that I want from combat? Like, in the early part of the game, when we only have one ability, what is it that I want the player to be, like, behavior tree, like a flowchart? Like, what is the choices I'm trying to make? And right now, it feels like with the current setup, with the heavy hit stationary with a charge of 4, it's always good to just move up, hit them, move away, wait for them to become stunned, move back, hit them once, walk away. And I don't think that's very interesting. Still seeing 0s and -1s on the enemies. Is that right? Probably not. Good call out. Let's not change anything then. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on with the -1s. If I had to guess, it's because the CT updating is instantaneous. So if it ever goes down below 0, it shows up that way. But why is it showing up as below 0? So that -1, I guess that makes sense because we're not selecting a starting ability on reveal. Well, I guess it doesn't make sense, but... Whoa, what are you doing? He is just like... Oh, he didn't spot me. I forgot. I honestly kind of forgot that we even had that behavior. But enemies need to see you before they'll actually start moving and chasing you and entering combat. So realistically, we shouldn't show the number for their action, I don't think, unless they're in combat. That seems reasonable. So the -1 on first reveal is because they don't have... They're not in combat yet. Let's see if that fixes it. So I think the tweak here is this faux state machine. If we look at our solution, when they are in patrol, they are just moving back and forth. When we enter into attack, do we set anything on the unit to let it know that it is now fighting? We say that it is aggressive, and on enter, on enter, we do some stuff with the end of turn for the alert so that it does the little red alert symbol, and it increments the number of aggressive AIs because this is now in the attack state. But we don't actually do anything to the unit itself that is like the core piece of information that's normally passed around in our engine. Nothing here actually updates to say, hey, you're now fighting. We should do that. Something about the unit should change. Let's write some bad code, just as I try and figure this out, but we're just going to embed this directly into the unit. I don't think it's right, but we're just going to add a is in combat. I don't like it, but we just want to see how this feels. So if we have it in combat, and on exit we'll say we're no longer in combat, then we should be able to go to our UI system, and for, I think it's the simple one, simple status bar component, which is really the AI status bar component, should be renamed at some point. We have the stat system, which updates our text based off of whenever the stat gets changed. We need a new type of component. We're going to copy this one. Visual Studio is going to have a little bit of a fit while it's trying to figure out what we're doing. Thank you. So we'll name this unit in display in combat component. And this component, once Visual Studio figures out what's going on, this component will check the stored data, which in this case will be of type unit, and it will check the unit to see if it is in combat. And then we will have a game object, which will be display object. And display object dot set activity, whenever this component is refreshed, will get its activity set based off of whether or not the unit is in combat. So if the unit is in combat, this will be active. If it's not in combat, it'll be false. So that is the state type we want. So then we just have to come in here, add this as a new type of unit component, display in combat, and then we just need to give it the object that we want to toggle on and off, and that'll just work. That will just work. Well, in theory, fingers crossed, here's hoping. I'm hopeful. Okay. So the question is, what's happening? Let's leave and come back. Because I'm curious to see if this is working at all. Because it definitely did show up instantly, but that might be because the enemies were entering combat right away. So if we leave and come back into the screen. Oh, why didn't it save? Oh, that's a bug. Oh, because we... Yeah, okay, cool. We need to update our transitions. I was showing someone the game at one point a few weeks ago, and I modified Forest TO1 to go back to the old map stuff that we were doing before, and I did not reset it, so we want you to go W01 again, so that we go to the right map. W01. Cool. And then we can go back to W01 and give this a shot. Because if we leave and come back into the map, the enemy should still spawn there, but the tiles will remain revealed on exiting and returning. And so the enemies will spawn in while not being in combat. But I think, yeah, in combat, because they're both getting the alert. But I feel like the in combat alert is happening like almost too frequently. Or like it's happening too soon? Okay, yeah, so no symbol. So I guess that the text turning on is instantaneous. Yeah, as soon as we get in combat, the text turns on. Can we get you to show -1 at any point here? Doesn't seem like it. So the -1 is more to do with like being in almost a bad state when we first start, when the unit first appears. What if... Nope, that's still fine. And if we walk up to this unit, well, this unit's in a bad state. Where are you trying to patrol to? Oh, are you a carryover from a previous version of the game? Where are you trying to go 9-5 and then 11-9? Yeah, I don't know if those fully make sense anymore. So instead, let's do 17-6 and then 11-6. So you just move up and down this section here. And then same thing here. You can do like 10-7 and 10 or 17-7. Yeah, okay. So you won't get in each other's ways either. Regardless, I think that this is... I think the problem with the -1 showing up is... to do with the moment that they appear. Oh no, that's 0. Interesting. Okay, yeah, so it's not even the moment they appear. When they first appear, they show up with 0. It's the first action they do after being revealed. They're showing up as gray, and they do a -1 move towards you. So when they first enter into attack state, they will enter in here, they will do the alert response, then decide on their next attack. Deciding on the next attack should be here, which is going to be determining based off of the distance to the foe. Oh, interesting. When do we pick the telegraphed attack? I guess this is setting it up. So this is where we set up a new plan of attack. Hello, first-time chatter. Dangerly Takon? Tanaka? What is that emote? Well, that's cool. Okay. Where did it actually choose an attack pattern? Here. This is where it's actually choosing its pattern. It's your emote. It's a pretty good emote. Most of my emotes are all based around, honestly, just this joke from Suikoden 2. No, Suikoden 3. That was Suikoden 3 with Chester many years ago. I think I want to debug. I think I want to try and figure out, like, what is happening the moment a character first appears. Because when the enemy first appears, it's clearly not picking a good attack. And I think rather than try and, like, read through the code and try and figure out what's going on, I think it's just going to be faster to just debug through. Yeah, okay. Enable for the session. Hit run. We've got the breakpoint set. We will figure out what's going on. I don't think I care about any of these other breakpoints right now. That was for a different bug I was trying to solve yesterday. So we can get rid of those. Okay, so we pick up the sword, which honestly for what we're doing isn't really necessary. And we walk up and we reveal the first enemy, and the first enemy is trying to pick their first attack. The plan is not populated, so it's going to loop through. It's going to go through the different pickers, and it's going to try and pick a plan based off distance. It currently believes the distance to the foe is max integer. I mean, that would probably be the problem right there. Shouldn't I have set the distance to foe here? So we've already passed the problem. Okay, let's reveal the second enemy. Why is the distance to foe operation not working correctly? So it found the player, okay. It's going to do a board search based off of the nearest foe, which is the player. And it's going to try and find a path through any walkable tiles, which should be fine. Do I need to go through every step of the search? I don't really want to, like, my search function should work fine. Yeah, we're gonna just move forward. We can always get back here if we need to, but we're gonna just assume that it's gonna search through everything and it's gonna figure out the distance and find the correct unit. I'm gonna just hit a breakpoint here. Okay, unit plan tile is null, so we're not gonna go into there. So we're going to check the unit's current tile, and the distance should be 1. So the distance to foe is 1. Okay. That seems fine. So is it only a problem for the first unit we reveal? Pick a plan. Distance is 1. It found a plan, which is AI smash. Okay. Yeah, so if we get all the way through here... Oh, I was going too quick. Okay. The problem was we hit the first enemy when we were debugging just now. Alright, start over. So it looked like it was working properly because it was the second enemy that we were tracking on there. Start over. But the distance formula is the problem. We need to figure out why on reveal it's not being able to calculate the distance to the player properly. Okay, try again. So here, distance to foe. We're going to just hit forward through this. Plan is still no. Current tile. Interesting. Okay. Good call out, Mystic Coder, but no. I think what's happening here is when we reveal the tile for the enemy, I don't know if it's being added to the board correctly or fast enough for it to be able to find a path to the other tiles. That's what looks to be happening to me, is this feels like an order of operation problem. Like when we go into search, this is going to check through the tiles, essentially all the tiles. And it's going to start by checking the start tile, which is going to be 11.8. And then from 11.8, it's going to check all tiles around it. So it's going to check every position. So it's doing -1 on the X and 0 on the Y, and it's going to find that tile, and that'll be 10.8, which does math out. So we're at 11.8, and we're going to say the next tile we need to check is 10.8, and it's going to go through and it's going to add that tile, and it's going to set the distance 10.8 is away from 11.8 to be 1. So the distance there is 1, and then it's going to add it to the list to continue checking. And we're going to keep going through here, trying to make sure that we're adding the distance of each tile away. And the idea here is by searching through the whole board in this way, we're going to set every single tile in the board to have a distance away from the starting position of the unit, the start tile, which is that 11.8, I believe. And then when we're done looping through all of this, every single tile should have a correct distance. Yeah, it's going to be too difficult to figure that out. Concerned about the remove at... Yeah, I think I was looking at a different piece of code, because it looks like we're just using the DQ for everything. I'm checking the content of each next tile that we go into to see if any of them show up with the player. But this should, in theory, travel through every single tile that's on the board. I guess the question I could check is, does this have all tiles in it? Yeah, that looks to be... That looks to be the whole grid. So it's even searching through tiles that aren't revealed yet. So the revealing shouldn't be a problem here. But if we go all the way through, we'll find that the unit's current tile never gets its distance set. There's the value I'm looking for. So the player is currently on 13.7. We're still making our way through 11.18. That was 13.7. I passed it. I stepped over it. Okay. I know that it reached this point, though. But it didn't get its distance set. Distance is not set to 0 because we want to make sure that if the distance is less than the tile's distance, then we add to it. I don't know, it's been a while, a long time since I've looked at any of this code. Because the weird thing is that it feels like if this code is broken, the entire game should be busted. Like, there's no way that the AI should ever be able to track to us. So it has to be something about the moment that it's revealed that causes this problem. But I'm having a hard time seeing why that would be the case. And I believe, just to show it, this is where the clear search happens at the top, which is where we're setting all the previous and the distance stuff. Yeah, so we set it to max, that way we're ensuring each one is the closest distance. The only thing I can think of is that this add tile function is technically here. So it won't add anything to the queue if it's pit, which again, that makes sense. Okay. The only thing I can think to do is to try again, because we did see that it hit the player, so I think I just need to go a little more slowly and look for that moment when the player does show up. Because if I had have kept stepping from that point onwards, I think we would have figured it out. So again, we're gonna come back to here. Need to turn on the debug again before we take that step. Also interesting that the tile numbers are off. I think that's not a problem. I think that's okay. Okay, so let's turn back on the breakpoints. Just gonna over spam a little bit. The remove at that you're referring to was inside of the plan picker stuff, but by the time we get to that, we've already, like, the plan picker, like, remove at, I think is what you're referring to. By that point, we've already gotten into a bad state. I think that's the code that you saw. The tile we're looking for this time is still 13.7, so I ended up walking in the same spot. I'm just going to clear a lot of this out too, because it's taking a while to load. I have disabled this breakpoint. Why is it still hitting here? Player. Next.contents. Did I not say that the player was at... Oh, the enemy is at 13.7. Okay, sorry. I found it, I caught the watch, but... Yeah, so the player is at 11.8. And the distance on... Wait, does that make sense? Maybe that's part of the problem? Distance to nearest foe. Nearest foe... is the player. 11.8. Oh, we start on... Oh, okay. I see. So we do a board search from the player outwards. Okay. And then we can use our tile to trace the shortest distance back to the player. Okay, I'm remembering how this works. Okay, so then it isn't the player that we're looking for, it is the enemy. Still a little weirded out that it's deciding that it wants to hit this spot in the code even though I've removed the breakpoint, but it's fine. just looking for the enemy to appear. It's searching the wrong way. I can see that it's like working its way down the board. There's 11. There's 12 for a second there. $13. We've got to be close. Did I miss it? Like, because we're up at like 13. There's 13. Like, it's working its way through, but it is nowhere near the coordinates of the player or the enemy. Well, this is thrilling now, isn't it? Yeah, I must have missed it. Either that or it's not hitting it, which I guess could make sense. Alright, let's be smart, I suppose. Unity? Let's try that again. Okay, let's give this a shot. So we should hit that if statement if we find any tile that contains, like, an enemy, basically. Cool. Try that again. But so even like moving, like taking a single step uses that same search function. So like everything is based off of it. So it seems crazy to think that it's somehow failing to get the distance correctly. It's like such a fundamental part. Like even here, technically we're hitting it. Okay, so if we move down 1, I think we'll reveal the enemy. So this is fine. We skip past this. Nope. Okay, I think we missed it. Let's add a breakpoint into here, distance to foe. And maybe even more accurately, let's make sure we add a breakpoint in here, because this is the point where we actually care. And then we'll take the breakpoint away here for now. Okay, we hit this point. We're going to go back. We're going to put this breakpoint back in here. We're going to check the distance from foe. We have found next. Next is the enemy container. We have searched through from What is happening? We want to find the distance to the nearest foe. We called this function, which is on the enemy container. From here, we said find the nearest foe. We come into this function. The find nearest foe function is searching. Okay, I see. So the find nearest foe function is also doing a search, but we don't care about the find nearest foe function because it is working correctly. So we hit the breakpoint here, which was confusing me because I'm like, why are we hitting this so soon? Because the foe we're finding is the player, and that's correct. So now we're going to search the board from the player outwards, looking for the position of the enemy, essentially. Now here, we're finding the player, which we don't care about. But we can validate that it's continuing to set distances, and the distance from us to this tile is less than the distance. Yeah, this is all fine. So then, does it hit the enemy? It hit the player again. It hit the player again. Enemy. Okay, so it found the enemy. The distance on the enemy is a large number, so it should get past this. It does. Does it add the tile? Okay. Okay. It is to do with the revealing. That was my gut instinct. Why are there 6 people watching me fail to debug? Okay. I appreciate all of you, but also I spent the good part of the early stream like discussing intense design stuff, and now we're here just like debugging through stuff which I would consider the most boring. So the actual root of the problem is that the tile animation is not revealed. So basically the tile hasn't fully entered. So because it hasn't entered, we consider that pit. So when we are searching from the player, which is our nearest foe, out towards the enemy tile, because the enemy's tile hasn't been revealed, it doesn't get added to the list and its distance from the player does not get updated. And therefore, when we go to try and find the distance to the nearest foe, it's never been set. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, but the problem is the enemy's tile is being revealed, so it can't be searched properly yet. This is probably the function we should use to check whether or not the tile is revealed or reveal is in progress. Because that is a more accurate representation. Of the actual state. Revealed is like the state of the tile, like it is done. It is appeared. Is revealed or revealing is saying, hey, this tile is in the process of appearing. That should still be a valid tile for us to search in this situation. So I'm going to try making that change. There's a chance that that will ripple and cause other problems, but we will see. Because I think this logically makes sense to me. The fact that the tile is in the process of being revealed should still be a valid search. Yep. And now the enemy properly chases us from the moment that they are revealed. And there is no number on the beginning until they are actually in combat. And the moment that they are engaged in combat, they immediately have a correct ability. We can try it with both and see if we can reveal both at the same time and validate that it still works correctly. And it does. Perfect. And that is the -1 issue that you were seeing, Mystic Coder. I think that I believe we should no longer be seeing any -1s. What were we doing? That took like 45 minutes to fix what was fundamentally a issue with whether or not a tile is walkable issue. It wasn't even to do with the search per se. I think I was playing with the enemy's behavior. This is a bug though. Is that consistent? It is. That enemy is trying to move and consistently failing. Alright, I found the next thing I want to figure out. So attack foe. Let's do telegraphed attack. So the AI should have just performed its chase and is now considered a new turn. Yeah, it's done in sequence. Everything is finished for the AI director. We're saying we're fully done, and we're saying, okay, now pick a new ability. I'm going to guess it's going to pick Purple Crystal, which is the move with an override distance of 64. So this is the chase effect. Do we know which tile we're going to yet? No, we don't. We just know that we're trying to chase the enemy. Okay. So then if we come up to internal here, the next time we update all of the states, it should attempt to execute this telegraphed plan. So if we hit wait, this unit's telegraphed plan is Purple Crystal. Okay, so it is the move. So it's coming in here and saying my next attack I'd like to do is this telegraphed plan. It's going to try and check to make sure that it's going to plan its direction independently. I think we care about this. We don't care about any of that stuff. Yeah, ability is going to be null, and it's going to see should it move. Let's check that first. Is the plan of attack stationary? It is not, so it is allowed to move. It's going to try and move towards the nearest foe, which is going to be our one player character. It's going to go through all the movement options, which is going to start with itself. So it's going to look at its current tile, and it's going to get a list of all potential movement options in range with an override range of 64. So it's going to try and find all tiles in range, which is basically going to be a search function. So it would found 163 tiles within 64 of it. It's going to make sure that it removes any tiles that are occupied or have any content planning to move to them, which is when like two AI are planning at the same time. They set that I plan to move to this, and that way other AI don't try and go to it as well. And it's going to try and make sure that the tile that we're currently on is not one of the tiles that we try and go to. So it's going to go through and it's going to filter out all of the possible content. Where's the actual filter? Like, this is where it's filtering, but where's this function being called from? Why is it not showing me that in the call stack? Here. Okay. Put a breakpoint here, and we will see what got left over. So it considered 163 locations that it would like to go to. And then we set back our original movement distance of 1. It's going to find the nearest foe again, which is going to be the player. And it's going to start by setting up a plan of attack, which will be to stand still? Oh. Preferred distance does not equal -1. Its preferred distance for its plan of attack was -1. Which means it tried to stand still. Interesting. Okay, same thing. Telegraphed attack. It's trying to move towards the nearest enemy. We're going to hit this part here is the part I care about. We're going to get in here. We're going to find a list of movement options, which still has 163. It found a nearest foe, but its plan of attack's preferred distance is -1. Which means it doesn't move. Okay. Okay. Select best move tile. Interesting. So preferred distance is only set based off of the ability we're choosing. It's only ever set based off of when we pick a plan, or based off of like getting the score for, no, that's not even setting it. So it's just based on whatever plan we picked. That implies that the chase command has a preferred distance of -1, which would sound like chase would never work. Oh, okay. This is a bug with my planning system I wrote. That's what's going on here. So I updated the system a while ago to make it so that when we try and move an enemy, or when an enemy tries to figure out where it goes, it tries to move to where the player has moved to. But what I failed to account for was the situation in which the player isn't moving. So if the player isn't going anywhere, then we should fall back to check where they actually are. That's what's happening. Is that also a problem like up here somewhere? No, for whatever reason up here, we're just checking the player's current tile rather than their plan tile. I think there still might be bugs with this. I think realistically, I shouldn't have to do this logic. Inside of the unit, it should have like get my tile, and internally it should be able to say whether or not it should use the plan one or the current tile, I would think. Maybe there's some reason that I'm forgetting on why I needed to control this from the... There may be a reason why the AI needs to know whether or not it's trying to go to where you are or where you're thinking to go, but I would think that the AI shouldn't care. It should just want to go to you. Okay. Anyways, I think that should fix this particular issue we're seeing where the AI is stuck continuously, like, not moving forever. Oh my goodness. I've been on Confusion. Well, to be fair, I have been confused for a while. Okay, to replicate this bug, I think I just need to wait. Oh, it's still broken. Oh, it's super confused. Visual Studio, come back. Yeah, Visual Studio is super out of sync. Okay, maybe we're fine now? Like, this is not a breakpoint. Why are you stopping here? Weird. Okay, so move to nearest foe. Find a bunch of movement options. See our preferred distance is -1. Come in here, set our to check tile to be 7-3. Oh, I see, and we're going to loop backwards until we find a movement option. Okay, so the point is trying to move to is 11-7. Is there, like, an enemy already on that tile? There is. Okay. So the situation that we're having here where the enemy isn't moving is because the enemy wants to move to this tile, it looks like. But I would think we would filter out all movement options that were occupied. Is occupied. Occupied is if its contents is not null and its contents does not plan to leave, then it is occupied. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's going to try and get all locations that we can possibly move to. It's going to search through every single one of them, and it's going to filter the options, ideally by anything that's occupied. Then it's going to find that the player Yeah, okay. Okay, I see what's happening. So we're checking the player's position, and then we go from the next tile behind, like the previous tile is after we did the search. So we searched from the player outwards to try and find the slime, I think. Is that right? What direction do we go? We get options, we find nearest foe. Yes, we find the nearest foe. And as part of finding the nearest foe, we will have searched outwards to find the player. Yeah, we start from our tile and we search outwards until we find an enemy of the opposite alliance, basically. And we say that that enemy of the opposite alliance is our nearest foe. Sure. Okay. But that search is going to go from us and go, doop, doop, I found him. He's right here. But it's going to go through this enemy on that path. And we can see that because the dot previous is going to show each tile we went to before the previous tile until we found the enemy. And when we start with our own tile, which is this one, 13-7 is our starting enemy tile, and we go previous, we find Oh, sorry, that was the player. So we start at the player at 13.7, and then we go previous from that, we find an enemy. The only tile that 12.7 could be with an enemy, the only tile directly next to the player with an enemy would be this one. So it basically found this tile. And then it went back one more previous from that one, and we find that we're looking at the 11.7, which is where our starting point was for our search. So although we filter all movements that would be valid spots to move to, because the nearest path took us through a tile containing an enemy, it can't find another option nearby. So this logic here, when we do this search, yeah, because this is all part of the delegate. This return statement needs to validate that there isn't an enemy on this tile. If occupied, check the other's alliance. If the alliance is not equal to this and matches the foe, then this is the nearest foe and we say we're good. Otherwise, if the nearest foe is null and this tile is walkable, it's a possible location. But we should not try to add tiles that are occupied. And this should make sure that when we try and find a path to the nearest foe, we don't check any tiles that contain enemies. This doesn't hold up to teleporting. If we have an enemy that teleports or flies, we would want to take the shortest path to get there. So it's possible find nearest foe in this particular situation might want to be a function inside of our movement system, because our movement system can be inherited into children of like flying and teleporting. So it might be that we might want to have the movement write this logic. For the now, this will work. We will still run into a situation though where if there's an AI standing in a one wide gap and there's enemies behind them, they won't be able to move any closer. But I think that is intended functionality. Okay. I have not touched any of this stuff in a while, so these are some fun bugs to try and figure out. Oh, now that is fundamentally broken. No valid plan found. Okay. Adding is occupied here completely broke the enemy's movement. If it's walkable and not occupied. Simple. Simple, simple. Okay, I think we've set up the same situation. So now this AI should walk around. And they do. Okay. Okay, that's fixed. So they should feel way more responsive in terms of like finding paths to us. Because they're not going to get stuck on each other as much. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's feeling more correct. I'm not seeing nearly as many issues with like -1s or with the enemies getting stuck and just not moving forever. I'm not seeing any gray indications. Gray crystals would be failed to find an action that is valid, and that doesn't seem to be happening either. So I think we've cleaned up the multiple unit AI quite a bit here. Whether or not the AI is good, like for combat or for interesting gameplay, that is a different conversation, but at least the behaviors are working correctly. I should eat, though. We've run for the 3 hours I initially called out on Discord. I think I'm gonna break and go get some dinner and then maybe return a little bit later for some more streaming, because this has been productive. It's been slow and not a ton of progress in some regards, but I do think I've been actively figuring stuff out and solving problems for the last 3 hours. So I think I want to keep this up. So we're going to take a break for 2 hours. We're at 6-ish o'clock for me at PST. We'll come back around 8 PST, so in about 2 hours, and then probably stream for another hour, maybe? Does that fit? That probably fits. I don't know. Keep an eye on Discord, but yeah, I'll probably try and come back a little bit later. Maybe I come back a little bit sooner, depending on how quickly I can find food. But yeah, this has been fun. It's been good to jump back in and take a look at stuff. I think after food, I want to come back and I want to maybe take a look at some design work. Again, playing with the numbers on their like actions, how many turns it takes before they actually go, and what abilities they have and how far they move when they attack. Because I think it could be interesting to see these enemies move more aggressively, so that moving away from them is less of a viable option, so that when they actually go to take their action, like right now, he'll move 1 and attack. Maybe if they were moving like 2 or 3, then like running away from them while they're charging up would do a lot less. But I'm going to give that some thought over lunch or over dinner or whatever. For now, though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, folks.